रोहित भाई इंग्लिश में कैसे बात करूँ? Look, I won't waste your time. I will teach you exactly how to speak confidently and fluently in English like I do. And after you go through this video and after you implement the tips that I give you, you're going to be able to speak just like me. So let's just begin the video. So we're going to cover how to speak confidently and become a leader. Now this is going to be a sort of small guide for you. So make sure you pay attention to this. So what we'll cover today is number one, my story. And number two is tip one and tip two. Alright, these two tips is something you've never ever heard before. So make sure you stick around for that. So as a child, I was always a good speaker. You can see in these two screenshots I have. These were the videos that I created when I was like 5-6 years old. In the left one, I was making some sort of vlog. In the right one, I was making some magic tutorial. So as a child, I've always been the one to make videos. And it's just something that I've always done as a child. And the thing is, even at that time, I had that confidence that I have right now on camera too. I didn't have the what do you say, the lack of confidence on the camera. I was really confident on camera. And the thing is, because of this confidence, it showed confidence in speaking in all other parts of my life. Now obviously at that time I was extremely shy. Alright, so at that time I wasn't talking to anyone, but when I did talk to someone, it was pretty confidently. So the thing is, I've always had this as a child, and most Indians can't converse well. Like if you look at my comment section, I always get these comments by how to learn English, how to speak in English, your English is crazy, make a video on how to speak English. Always. This is just like a small number of screenshots I have put up here. But almost all of them always ask for this. So most Indians like really can't even converse well in English, because English is obviously not our first language, but most Indians can't converse in English, which is the crazy part for me. Because with English you get access to so many places and so many things and so many people, which is very important. So you can articulate your thoughts in the language that you think in. Listen to this statement again. You can articulate your thoughts in the language that you think in. Think about it. तुम कौन से language में अपने thoughts सोचते हो? Is it Hindi, Marathi, or your local language? Whatever language that is in, you can articulate pretty well in that language, can't you? अगर तुम हिंदी में सोचते हो, you can speak Hindi properly, but the same way it is not for English, because you don't think in English. Is that not right? So it is not that you don't have the ability to articulate, it is that your articulation is dependent on your basic actions. So as a normal human being, if your basic action is to think in Hindi, you're going to be very articulate in Hindi. If your basic like thinking language is Marathi, you will be very articulate in Marathi. But if your basic articulation or your basic thoughts are in English, you'll be able to articulate in English, because I personally am able to think in English. I mostly just think in the language English. That's why I'm able to speak English so fluently. So tip number one is to think more in English, right? Think more in English. So whatever thoughts you have usually from a day-to-day basis, instead of thinking it in the local language or like the language you usually think it in, let's just say तुम हिंदी में सोचते हो, instead of thinking it in Hindi, think of it in English. It's very simple, but it will change your perspective, because English में सोचना थोड़ा tough है तुम लोग के लिए, right? मेरे लिए नहीं है, because it's just natural to me. But तुम्हारे लिए most likely thinking in English is something very tough. So I want you to start thinking more in English, right? This is a very game-changing tip for you. Alright, think more in English. And the second is explain your thoughts out loud in English. So what do I mean by this is, मेरा ऐसा personality रहा है as a child that whenever I learn something new, I always explain it as if I'm in a video. So when I was scripting this exact video, like this exact slide, I was actually speaking out loud as if I am in that video, as if I'm speaking right now. Isn't that crazy? As I was scripting this exact video, I was speaking as if I'm speaking right now, because I was explaining my thoughts and in English. So why I want you to do the same thing is that whenever you have any sort of thought, think of it in English and say it out loud in English. So whenever you learn something new, so let's say for example you're learning this, right? You tip 1, tip 2 तुम सीख रहे हो. Explain it in English. Sit down and think, okay, I'm going to think more in English, and make sure you do this action, because if you can think in English and explain your thoughts out loud in English, it's going to be a complete game changer for you. Alright, it's gonna be a complete game changer for you. You'll be able to speak better. Now, just for a book recommendation, if you are still like, I don't know how to speak in English, if you just don't know the language English, first step is to just go to school, all right, and pay attention in your English class so you can actually speak English. And secondly, if you want to like know how to converse well, you can read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I think you pretty much know about that book. If you haven't read it, make sure to read it because it basically teaches you basic social skills, which I think is very important paired with your English language. Now, the thing about this is, you won't actually become fluent in like day one, right? You won't actually become fluent in day one because if your tendency is to not think in English, you won't be able to actually become very consistent in speaking English. So, first of all, make sure you practice this every single day. Like, let's just say tum shower mein ho and you want to think, just think in English. Say it out loud in English. And once you do these things, you are now a good English speaker, my friend. That's how it works. It's very simple, but it's gonna take some time for you. Alright? So make sure you do this. And I'll see you all in the next video. Don't sacrifice your future self for the pleasure today. Peace.